Welcome to the MARANATHA Global Bible Study. I'm Daniel Lancaster with First Fruits of Zion, and I'm sitting with you here at the EMMAUS table as a guest teacher to talk about the end of days. First Fruits of Zion is a Messianic Jewish teaching organization. Now, I'm not Jewish myself, don't let the little hat fool you, but I teach with First Fruits of Zion and also at a Messianic Jewish synagogue in Hudson, Wisconsin, where I'm coming to you, video recording for you today. So today we're starting a new topic of Bible study under the compelling and somewhat sensational sounding title, Satan in Chains. So this is going to be a sort of sample of the type of material you could anticipate learning in our year-long Torah Club Bible study titled End of Days, which is going to be a year-long Bible study on Jewish eschatology and an apocalyptic reading of the Bible and the book of Revelation, everybody's favorite, beginning this October. So check it out at endofdays.org. Okay? Endofdays, all one word, .org. Jesus once told a parable about a strong man guarding his household until one stronger than him comes, ties him up, loots him of his possessions, and this is a good thing apparently. It's a difficult parable to interpret. What does the parable mean? Who's the strong man? Who's the robber? When a strong man, fully armed, guards his own palace, his goods are safe. But when one stronger than he attacks him and overcomes him, he takes away his armor in which he trusted and divides his spoil. Luke 11:14 through 22. Another version of the same parable appears in the Gospel of Matthew, where he says, "How can someone enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man? Then, indeed, he may plunder his house." Matthew 12:29. So for the next many weeks, I'm not sure how many weeks, of the global Bible study, we're going to discuss the binding of the strong man and the plundering of his house. And we will be learning about the defeat of Satan, the binding of the devil, and the collapse of his kingdom speedily soon in our lifetime. So this Bible study will take us into the realm of eschatology, the study of the last things, where we will uncover the gospel of the kingdom, the coming of the Messiah, and the victory of light over darkness. We're going to be talking about prophecy. We'll be talking about the mystical unseen forces, the rulers, the authorities, the powers over this present darkness, the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places, Paul says. Our objective will be to obtain a better understanding of the coming Messianic era, the coming kingdom of heaven, to catch a glimpse of that bright future and to obtain better insight into the revelation that is shining from Zion already and beckoning us forward. We want to obtain a better understanding of the difficult text at the end of the book of Revelation about the binding of Satan, hence the title, Satan in Chains. And not just to satisfy our curiosity, but for some very practical purposes of getting the devil out of our lives now. We want to remove the power of Satan from our lives, out of our homes, out of our hearts, out of our minds, out of our communities. We want to silence his accusations. We want to see him fall like lightning. We want to tread down his forces underfoot as we press further up and further in toward the coming of our Master and the revelation of his kingdom. So let's get started with a cryptic passage from the book of Jude. Now, just in case you think I have all of this memorized, I don't. I'm picking it up off of a teleprompter. I'll put the text up on my teleprompter and hopefully you'll get them up on your screen so that we can learn the Bible together. So the Apostle Jude, Yehuda, one of the younger brothers of our Master actually, writes about fallen angels, he says, who are even now incarcerated and kept in chains until the coming judgment. So Jude chapter 1, verse 6, the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. All right, so it's clear that Jude assumes that his readers, Jewish readers, already know what he's talking about. Problem is that some 2,000 years later, we don't know what he's talking about. We've forgotten the whole story to which he's alluding. Who are these angels who didn't stay within their position of authority? And what are these eternal chains that are binding them? And where is this gloomy darkness? And when is this judgment of that great day? And so on and so forth. All right, we take another run at it in the epistle of 2 Peter because, 2 Peter really is just an expansion on Jude's epistle. So it offers a little bit more context and a little bit more information. So this is how Peter puts it in 2 Peter. He says, God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. But he did not spare the ancient world. He preserved Noah, a herald of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. So that's 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. And now we know who these incarcerated angels are. These are the watchers, the fallen angels mentioned in Genesis chapter 6, 1 through 4. These are the angels who sinned regarding the daughters of men in the days before Noah's flood. And Jude knows the story. Peter knows the story. They're speaking about the fathers of the Nephilim, the fallen ones, these so-called sons of God who took as their wives whoever they chose. And he says they did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling in order to enter ours. So as a punishment for their transgressions, they're kept in chains, chained up in prison, in chains of gloomy darkness, it says, until the day of judgment. Okay, where does Jude and where is 2 Peter getting this story? Because that's quite a bit more than you learn in Genesis, in the very short 4 verses in Genesis. Okay, where are they getting it? They're getting it from the apocryphal book of Enoch. The apocryphal book of Enoch, not part of the Bible, elaborates on the story of these fallen angels. And in that popular telling of the tale, the great angel Azazel, that's his name, in Jewish legend, leads a rebellion of angels. And he binds his followers by an oath to enter the world of men along with him. And they teach human beings the arts of war and the arts of seduction. And they take for themselves wives who then, of course, bear for them sons in the form of these terrible giants, the Nephilim, who terrorize the earth. And so in those days, the days before the great flood that engulfed the wicked generation of Noah, this righteous Enoch, that's his Hebrew name, Enoch, Enoch walked the earth. And this is the Enoch who fathered Methuselah, the father of Lamech, the father of Noah. And it says in the Torah in Genesis chapter 5, 24, Enoch walked after the ways of the Lord. It says he walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Genesis 5:24. Or you can take it from the book of Hebrews. Hebrews 11:5 says, by faith Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death. And he was not found because God had taken him. All right, and there's more to the story. According to Jewish legend, according to as recorded in this apocryphal book of Enoch, when Enoch was taken up, Jewish legend holds that he was granted an apocalypse, an unveiling, a revelation not unlike the revelation that God granted to John the Apostle on the island of Patmos. An angel served as his heavenly tour guide, showed him around the place. He saw spiritual places behind the scenes. He saw the great judgment of the flood with which God was preparing to deluge the earth. And in these heavenly visions, legend says, Enoch beheld things that were yet to come. And I'll give you an example. It says in Enoch chapter 54, it says, "And I looked, and my eyes saw how they crafted implements, iron chains of immeasurable weight. And I asked the angel of peace who went with me, saying, For whom are these chains being prepared? And he said unto me, These are being prepared for the hosts of Azazel, so that they may take them and cast them into the abyss of complete condemnation. And Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Phanuel shall take hold of them on that great day, and cast them on that day into the burning furnace, that the Lord of spirits may take vengeance on them for their unrighteousness in becoming subject to Satan and leading astray those who dwell on earth." Okay, so what are we talking about here? Enoch in the story beholds angelic blacksmiths pumping the forge of heaven, pounding their great hammers on the anvil of heaven as they forge enormous links of a great chain, a chain of immeasurable weight. And these chains are being prepared for those wicked angels who rebelled against God and descended to the earth in the days of Enoch. And these are called the hosts of Azazel, because that's the name of the leader of these hosts in Jewish legend. And so the four great archangels, cardinal angels, are assigned then to take hold of Azazel and his followers and on the day of the deluge, the day the flood happens. And so while the earth is being flooded, these angels take the fallen angels and bind them in these chains of immeasurable weight and cast them into the abyss, into the bottomless pit, into the lowest depths of Gehenna, into the lowest hell, into the burning furnace. And there in that lowest hell, the prisoners remain in chains, locked in the abyss as a punishment for casting their allegiance with the other side, and as a punishment for leading the people of the earth astray. And in the days of the apostles, they're still there. They remain still bound in chains, still waiting the final day of judgment, the day of the Lord, when the Ancient of Days will open the books of judgment. And this is what Peter means when he says, God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. And if he did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, and so forth, as we're reading 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. So they await their final sentencing, the final judgment, when they will be cast into the oblivion of the lake of fire. That's why they remain to this very day bound in these immeasurable chains to pay for their crimes against humanity. So obviously, Peter knew this story and Jude knew the story, and they assumed that we also know the story, that we also knew the story about the punishment of the fallen angels. And so does the book of Revelation make that assumption. The story about the forging of the chains and the binding of Azazel and the fallen angels, all of that informs our reading of Revelation 20 when we come to the climactic battle of the redemption, the story of the second coming of the Messiah, who comes with the armies of heavenly hosts and lays hold of the angel Michael, lays hold of the dragon of the Satan. And it says, I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand a key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and shut it, and sealed it over him, so that he might not deceive the nations any longer. Revelation chapter 20, verses 1 through 3. So, for 1,000 years, that's what you get. Satan removed from the world of action. Sickness and disease will fade. Blight and stain will fade away. There'll be no more war or jealousy or hatred. The pestilence that stalks in the darkness will stalk no more. The destruction that wastes at noonday will waste no more. No evil will be allowed to befall you. No plague will come near your tent. For 1,000 years, the kingdom will be established here on earth. And the prayer that we pray 3 times a day, may your kingdom come, may your will be done, will be answered. The kingdom will come. God's will be done. For 1,000 years, the veil of darkness which covers over the earth will be lifted, and the light of the revelation of the one God will fill the world, and all humanity will know the Lord. That's what the prophets say. So why then, after all of this, do we read, after that, he must be released for a little while? As it says in Revelation 27, and when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations that are at the 4 corners of the earth. Why? Think about it. I mean, why? After chaining the devil and finally having him out of the picture, why would you let this rascal out? Why let the devil go? And this is one of the central questions that we're going to grapple with over the next few lessons. But for now, that's too big. Let's not try to tackle that. Instead, let's go back to our original question about the parable of the strong man. Because when the kingdom of heaven draws near, we see the glimmering signs of that bright future, we're going to experience, we should expect to see a foretaste of these things. This is like the miracles of the Master and the miracles of the apostles. That's what they were all about. For example, there's the healing of the woman with the bent back. And Jesus says, should not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan has bound for 18 years, should she not be loosed from this bond on the Sabbath day? Luke 13. 15 and 16. So Jesus looses her so that she can stand up straight, no longer stooped beneath Satan's bonds. And he drives out evil spirits with such authority and power that in one story, his critics come and say to him, they say, oh, this man, they're thinking, this man drives out devils by the power of Beelzebub. In other words, he uses the power of Satan to cast out evil spirits. Luke 11, beginning in verse 17, says, but he, knowing their thoughts, said to them, every kingdom divided against itself will be laid waste, and a divided household falls. And if Satan also is divided against himself, how will his kingdom stand? You say that I cast out demons by Beelzebul? So in other words, you think I'm working for the devil and using satanic powers to drive out demons? That makes no sense. If I'm working for the devil and using the power of the devil, why am I fighting the devil and driving him out? And then he says in verse 20, but if it is the finger of God, if it is by the finger of God that I cast out demons, then the kingdom of God has come upon you. So with these words, he alludes back to the story in the book of Exodus where Pharaoh refuses to let the children of Israel go. And as Moses unleashes the plagues of God's judgment against Egypt, Pharaoh's magicians, they realize that their occult magic cannot keep pace with the Lord. So they say to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. So with this story from the Torah, Jesus goes on to compare Satan to a strong man, the owner of a house, like Pharaoh, the owner of the kingdom of Egypt. The house corresponds to this current world, this present darkness. Jesus compares himself to a thief who comes to rob this house, and he says, when a strong man, fully armed, guards his own palace, his goods are safe, like Pharaoh with holding the children of Israel. But when one stronger than he attacks him and overcomes him, like Moses in Egypt, he takes away his armor in which he trusted and divides his spoil. Luke 11:14 through 22. This is to say, when the devil guards his own palace, his goods are safe. What are his goods? The people that he afflicts. The sons and daughters of Abraham, whom Satan has bound these long years. These are the goods in his safekeeping, like the Hebrews in slavery under Pharaoh in Egypt. But if one stronger than the devil comes and attacks him and overcomes him and ties him up and takes away his defenses, then he can no longer keep his slaves. And Jesus told this parable to illustrate how it was that he was driving out these evil spirits with such authority, because he is the one who brings that future kingdom when the strong man will finally be tied up. He will tie up the strong man, binding the devil in chains of immeasurable weight, and he will liberate the people that the devil is holding captive, those sons and daughters of Abraham who Satan has bound these many years, will be liberated on that day, which will be entirely Sabbath. But the devil will be bound in chains of gloomy darkness. Just as Pharaoh could not prevent God from taking the children of Israel out of Egypt, his magicians could not compete with Moses and Aaron, and all his power could not resist even the smallest finger of the Lord. So too, Satan finds that one stronger than him attacks him, overcomes him, ties him up, loots him, strips him of his possessions, and divides the spoil. And Jesus is the victor. Maranatha.